Many people struggle from what is known as mental illness every day, but not everyone understands the struggles it brings upon one's life, family, and future. Henry's Demons, Living with Schizophrenia, A Father and Son Story, by Patrick and Henry Cockburn, is the intense true story of Henry's struggles facing schizophrenia as an adult. Before the protagonist, Henry Cockburn, was diagnosed with schizophrenia, he was characterized as happy, expressive, and intelligible, although disobedient. Henry and his brother Alex grew up together in Canterbury with a happy childhood, while remaining close until Henry went off to school at Brighton. Before Henry was recognized to have schizophrenia, it states, quote, Henry's teachers praising him enthusiastically for being able, original, likable, and articulate, but often adding with various degrees of frustration that he could be spectacularly ill-organized, was forgetful of all rules and regulations, and did only what he wanted to do himself. End of quote, page 3. On a gloomy February day, a few months after Henry's 20th birthday, he walked vigorously towards New Haven, from Brighton, into the estuary where he nearly drowned. Patrick says, quote, if Henry was not trying to commit suicide, he at least seemed powerfully drawn to suicidal actions. End of quote, page 131. Henry's reasoning was that voices told him to do it. Henry is only alive because luckily local fishermen rescued him from the water. He was then admitted into a mental hospital to receive treatment and soon later be diagnosed with schizophrenia, which is a long-term mental disorder that leads to the breakdown of emotion, behavior, and thought. A song that related back to this quote is I'm Sorry by Joyner Lucas. This song conveys the message of how the actions of one person can influence another. If a person can make a difference by changing the thoughts in one's head, then it is a positive thing, especially when dealing with someone that has a mental disorder such as schizophrenia.
Going out of my mind, you don't know how many times that I pray for you. I hope you hear me, goddammit, because I got so much shit that I want to say to you. I used to shine, now I'm all in the dark. I remember I used to tell you to follow your heart, but goddammit, look at you now, it's all of your fault, how could you? Maybe it's my fault. I should have paid more attention to what you've been doing. Maybe I should have been more of an influence. I can't believe.
Moreover, Henry faces many conflicts throughout his life. While growing up, Henry did not have a very strong connection with his father, and it was evident in both lives. This is due to the fact that Patrick Cockburn spent a majority of his life as a journalist in Afghanistan. Patrick says, quote, very occasionally I worried about the lack of friction between Henry and me, thinking it might be a sign of a lack of maturity on his part that his sense of identity was not developing a hard edge. End of quote, page 5. This external person-versus-person conflict is describing the struggles facing the family's relationship. Secondly, another conflict includes an altercation with the police where he had spent several hours in jail. Another conflict includes the family of Patrick, Alex, and Henry's mother Jan coping with Henry's psychosis. In addition, a very important conflict throughout the story is that of Henry's experience at the mental hospital as well as psychiatrist. Henry insists that, quote, if you ever meet a psychiatrist, don't confess anything. End of quote, page 175. This internal person versus self conflict portrays his hatred towards people that attempt to help him. Henry believes that he is fine and that nothing is wrong with him, although in reality, that is far from the truth. A song that connects to this quote is Mental Hospital by Ace. A line from the song states, quote, freedom is my only dream. Each abuse has privilege in this madhouse. Refers back to the quote because both depict that freedom is what everyone wants, especially Henry. When Henry is When Henry is at the mental hospital, he continuously tries to leave, but is not successful. Furthermore, form is used in many ways to keep the reader captivated and remain interested. The author uses numerous forms of simile throughout the story to describe an idea and further description. Patrick says, quote, I had discovered that an American doctor had described schizophrenia as being mental illness what cancer is to physical ailments. End of quote, page 20. This simile gives the readers better understanding of what is being said through comparing two things together. Secondly, another use of form is imagery, by describing the setting of particular events. While Henry was at Brighton, his mother Jan visited his campus room to describe the scenery as, quote, an appalling mess even by adolescent standards, with empty coffee cups, discarded takeaway meals, and dirty clothes all over the floor. End of quote, page 9. This passage describes the type of environment that Henry is living in before diagnosed with his mental disorder. A song that correlates back to the quote is Battlefield by Jordan Sparks. Both the quote and song relate to some form of battle being fought. The battle in the book refers to mental illness and the hardships that go along with it, whereas the song relates to love, as it says, quote, why does love always feel like a battlefield, a battlefield, a battlefield? Ultimately, Patrick and Henry Cockburn write this autobiography for the purpose of sharing the conflicts relating to mental illness and Henry's personal struggle with schizophrenia. Patrick wanted to change the views that ordinary people have towards people with mental illness. Patrick states, quote, I believe that Henry and I could serve a broader public purpose by making schizophrenia and mental illness in general less of a mystery which people are embarrassed to discuss. I began to think with growing enthusiasm about writing a book with Henry about what he, along with the rest of his family, had been through. The making of this book has affected so many lives in a positive way by describing the hardships the family has gone through over this long, painful process while relating to other people's situations. The second purpose of this enticing story is to make people understand what it is like to have schizophrenia. Patrick says, quote, I do not believe that somebody who does not have schizophrenia or has recovered from it can fully understand and describe what it is like for somebody who still has it. A song that relates to this quote would be This Song Saved My Life by Simple Plan. This song conveys the message of appreciating that person for understanding.
I wanna start by letting you know this. Because of you, my life has a purpose. You help me be who I am today. I see myself in every word you say. Sometimes it feels like nobody gets me. Trapped in a world where everyone hates me. There's so much that